Very good evening. Jai Shri Krishna Guru. Thank you for joining Sai Satcharita Parayan. I hope you had a wonderful day today. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Sai Satcharita, the life and teachings of Shirdi, Sai Baba. Today we'll be starting from a new chapter, that is chapter 39, the exposition of a specific verse from the Gita and the creation of the Samadhi Mandir. My obeisance to Shri Ganesh, to Shri Saraswati and Shri Guru Maharaj, to the family deity, to Shri Sita Ramachandra, my most humble obeisance. I bow in reverence to the most venerable Guru, Shri Sai Nath. Blessed is holy Shirdi, blessed is Dwaraka Mai, his abode, where the most virtuous and sacred Shri Sai abided till his nirvana. Blessed indeed were the people of Shirdi, for whom he came so far, for whatever reason, and has left them indebted to himself. Shirdi, to begin with, was small, but attained greatness by its association with Sai, and consequently became a most sacred place of pilgrimage. Blessed are those women of Shirdi too. Blessed their single-minded devotion and faith that they sang the praises of this unique saint Sai while grinding or pounding grain or bathing. Blessed was their love for him that they sang the most excellent songs which as one listens to some of the best of them bring such peace of mind. And to satisfy the curiosity of the listeners, I shall give some of these becoming songs in the proper context and at the proper time. Shri Sai first appeared under a wayside mango tree in the kingdom of the Nizam and arrived quite unexpectedly at Shirdi with a marriage party from Dhupkhed village. A most virtuous gentleman from this village, Chand Patil by name, first discovered this treasure, and it is because of him that others had Sai's darshan. How he lost his mare, how he met Sai, who made him have a few puffs of the chillim, and how he found the Patil's mare for him. How a nephew of Chandbai's wife had come of a marriageable age and happened to choose a wife from Shirdi, and how the marriage party arrived in Shirdi. A detailed story of all this has already been narrated to the listeners earlier in chapter 5. I was only reminded of it in this particular context, but it need not be repeated here. Chand Patil, however, was just a pretext. Most anxious for the upliftment of his devotees, Sai incarnated on this earth and came to Shirdi of his own will. So, absolutely true. This is just a recap of what Hemad is saying, how Sai blesses and bestows grace upon the place and the people, why he chooses a particular place and why he takes birth in a particular family. All this is unknown, but it is only the grace of that Lord Almighty himself where he chooses to manifest in himself. You must go listen to my Krishna Guruji's Bhagavad Gita satsang earlier this Tuesday. In that, my Guruji has very clearly explained on how the divine manifest. Example, he's given about what are the qualities that is required, when the divine Lord manifests in a particular family. How his birth happens, why he chooses that particular family or particular place, and then how he imparts these knowledge, how he teaches, how he performs his leelas, various things. It's very, very beautifully explained by my Guruji. You must go listen. And in that he says, in this life of ours, if we want to evolve, on the path of spiritual and have a good birth, see, two things is very important. One is you need to be born in a pious womb or a pious family where your parents or the lineage, are in the guna of sattva. They are sattvic in nature, not just that, and also their lineage comes from a sage or saintly family. And number two criteria is you need to be born of a prosperous family. which means, that will help you evolve towards your path of spirituality, where you're going to do all the good things in the world. But for you to have, attain this birth in future lives, not this life but in the future lives, you need to understand that you have to, in this life of yours, live a life full of sattva, which means you have to overcome the tamas and rajasic nature and go towards the path of sattva, which is the path of dharma. That is what Lord Shri Krishna has very beautifully explained. So how do you, get in the next life? So forget about this life. This life you have already taken birth, and you're born from a particular family, with a particular people associated to that, a particular place. The reason is because you have to expiate your karma. So you have already taken this body, and there is a prarabdha karma associated with that. But when you meet the guru in this particular life, in this very life of yours, then when you follow all his teachings and you exactly do what he's asking you to do, and you attain your spiritual wheel, in that it is mentioned, when you do all the things as prescribed by your guru and instructed by him, then you're sanctioning yourself a pious womb in the future lives to take birth and to evolve on the path of your spirituality. That is exactly what it's mentioned. So if you do not attain your spiritual wheel, then how can you take birth in a pious family? You can't. So it is very important. So if you look at all the divine beings where they have taken birth, and I will give you an example of Lord Dattatreya. Lord Dattatreya was blessed and born to Atriya Muni and Anusuya. They were the most pious sages and the saint. They were Anusuya was the most chaste woman. She was greater. She had the glory of being the greater than any of the goddesses themselves. Likewise, Atriya Muni, who was a spiritually highest spiritual being, who spiritually very evolved being he was. So such a great saint and a sage, you're being born in that family. So like that, if you take example of any other sages who have taken birth, they have always been born in a particular family who are either pious or prosperous, or they have the lineage of the saints and the saints associated in their life. Some divinity is very much there, not otherwise. Likewise, my Krishna Guruji's lineage, if you take them, my Krishna Guruji's great grandparents were associated with Sai Baba. So they served Baba, and his forefathers were saintly people themselves. Sorry. So the point here is what Hemad is making is that blessed is that place where the divine Lord Mighty, the divine Lord Almighty manifests in the form of a sage and a saint and a guru, and grace, blesses the people over there, the place over there, and imparts this beautiful knowledge. And he cares about the well-being of all these people. And in this case, Shirdi, the people of Shirdi, Baba bless them. They're all indebted to Baba to eternity. For whatever reason he chose Shirdi, we don't know the reason. So such is the divine Leela of the divine Lord Mighty Lord. Similarly, so the family he came from was beautiful. He was associated with the divinely people. So like this, we have to make an effort to be born to, if we have another birth and we have to continue our journey in the path of spiritual, we have to always aspire to be on the sattvic path, so that we can take birth in our future lives in a holy and a pious family. That is very, very important. So coming back. So Chand Patil, however, was just a pretext. Most anxious for the upliftment of his devotees, Sai incarnated on this earth and came to Shirdi of his own will. See, we said, right, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. The Parabrahma manifests itself. Why? Because he wants to give a spiritual wheel. It's uplift the people, help the people, those who have already gone on the unrighteous path, and bring them back on the path of dharma. I think this we have done enough in our previous chapters, so I'm not going to emphasize, but I've just given you a background. How do you recognize and why the sages and the saints are born in a particular family, or why they choose a particular womb to take birth? So this is just a background, but you can go and listen to my Krishna Guruji Satsang on Krishna Knows. He's very in detail explained this whole meaning of it. Please go listen. Who but this Sai himself will uplift the dull-witted, the foolish, the lowly and poor, those without the benefit of the purificatory religious influences since birth, the simple, naive, trusting people. Just 18 years of age, but from that time he was accustomed to solitude. At night, he would lay himself down just anywhere without a trace of fear. For to him, God pervaded everything and everywhere. This is again a very important lesson here, which Baba is saying. See how Baba was. He said just 18 years of age, but from that time he was accustomed to solitude. And it's a very important thing. If you have to evolve on the path of spirituality, you have to go in solitude. This is something my Krishna Guruji will teach us, that you have to practice silence. Silence can be practiced in the most simple manner. I'll tell you how. This is something he taught to me even 2 days ago. He said, when somebody is saying something to you, why does your mind react? Can you not be silent? Do you need to respond to everything that is being said? It's not required. So why do you react? That is why he keeps saying, right? People might praise you and then you'll feel elated and laugh and you're just jumping with joy, you're quite excited. But when somebody is calling you names, or insulting you at that time, why do you feel small and you're getting angry, or you want to give a repartee and respond immediately and react to it? Why do you have to do that? So he said, can you not have that equanimity of mind? Can you not silence yourself? There is no need for you to respond to everything. You just need to listen. And this is a very powerful lesson, because silence is practiced even in this simple manner in our day-to-day life, the way we live. We don't have to react to everything. We don't have to respond to everything. And that itself is a way of doing our sadhana. How do you make your mind first shut up and then your mouth to shut up? Because why do you respond? Because your mind is reacting. So that itself is a big sadhana. So this way, it is very simple. But you know what? You will not do it. Why? Because you're not making an effort. This is exactly what my Krishna Guruji says. You need to open your mouth when there is a need, not otherwise. And go in that, silence, in that solitude. Solitude is you don't have to be associated and talking to every other person on phone, or friends unnecessary jabber. You don't have to do that. You have to just be in solitude, which means be with yourself, do things, study and be in silence. You don't have to constantly look at your phone. Today, one of the biggest addiction we have got is going and looking at some crappy videos or sending messages or doing something or the other on the phone, or be lost in the social media platforms. So that's not going to give you being in solitude. Solitude means you don't want, you're disconnected from your phone and people and everything, and sitting with yourself. You're spending time with yourself, but shutting your mind and your mouth. That is being in solitude. So today you don't have to go to any Himalayas to attain this. You can do in the place where you are. And this is a very powerful lesson with my Krishna Guruji taught. How do you go into solitude? And sometimes, yes, he says, when the time is right, please go travel alone and live alone and just go about, be lost in yourself. You don't need to have anybody with you. And that's something he said, you have to go on your journey, and someday in life you must do this. So because we have to evolve, we cannot be associated and getting lost in everything that's happening around us, and that is not going to give us a spiritual being. On the contrary, it's going to make us bound and get into bondage and completely attached to that. So we are never going to evolve. It's only going to pull you down. So don't do that. And this is one of the methods which is taught, and Baba used to do this. Imagine, right from the age of 18 years, he has always lived in solitude. And nobody knows where did Baba come from, how did he come. Nobody has any clue. Yet, he had attained that spiritual being. Just 18 years of age. But from the time he was accustomed to solitude, at night he would lay himself down just anywhere and everywhere, without a trace of fear. For to him, God pervaded everything and in everywhere. Absolutely. So he had no fear. See, one of the greatest things that you can conquer and attain freedom from is freedom of fear. What is the different what is the different fears we have? There are many kinds of fear. Fear of losing a job, fear of not having fear of uncertainties, like you don't know what's tomorrow, fear of sickness, your health getting deteriorated, whatever that fear could be. You're afraid. This entire world is driven because everyone is afraid. So why do you need to be afraid? You have to attain freedom from fear. That is the most beautiful thing to attain in life. What happens when you have surrendered to the divine Lord Almighty? Why are you bothered whether you have to have a job or not, or how things is going to work out? It's none of your business. The divine Lord Almighty Lord exists over there. He takes care of everyone in the most beautiful manner, but you need to have that faith and surrender. So that is one of the ways to overcome the fear. It could be anything. A simple example, one of my relatives, so my this body's mother, so she was little paranoid. Her diabetes went up. She was very afraid. Why is she fearing? Because she has a fear, oh, something shouldn't happen to me. So it's only a mind which is creating that. There is absolutely nothing wrong, but it is your mind which you're unable to control. And due to that fear, of course your sugar is going to show very high. And this is where you need to have faith in the divine. But when you take the name of the Lord, you completely lost yourself. You must listen to my Krishna Guruji's Das Bodh Satsang, which he did yesterday. And in that, he's talking about how do you do bhajans, kirtans, and how you need to take the name of the divine constantly. So when you take the name of the Lord, you'll forget everything else. But and that he's also teaching you how you need to have that ekagrata. What does that mean? So when we do prayers, our mind is somewhere else. We are thinking about, oh, today I've lost my job, or there's an issue, my boss has said this, all that. Or I'm sitting in the prayer and I'm thinking, oh, I hope my sugar comes down. Oh God, please help me. But you're not having the ekagrata in that name. You're only constantly worrying about your problems. Why should you worry? Just let go. This is what my Krishna Guruji would say. Just surrender. What has to be will be. The divine Lord takes care of you. And you know what? That is the greatest freedom. And trust me, and it's a very beautiful thing to be in, because your mind is not going to have that constantly worried. It's like a devil. There are demons within yourself. They're constantly bothering you. Just let go, surrender. What has to be will be. And why fear when I'm here, says Baba? What makes you think the divine Lord Mighty will not take care of you? Of course, when you have surrendered to him, when you have, when you're his devotee, Lord Shri Krishna himself has said in every scripture, all the divine masters and great gurus have said this one thing: nothing shall befall my devotees' home, nothing shall befall, no calamities can strike them. They're always there to protect us. So when we have that absolute faith, why fear? That is what you need to overcome. Fear is a very important aspect. And today, if you look at this whole world, everybody is so uncertain about what the future is. People are dying, there is sickness all around. But how do you overcome this? When you have the strength, absolute willpower, and take the name of the divine and do what you have to do. And that is the only way to surmount it. There is no other way. But if you succumb to that, then you are going to be miserable, and then you are going to be fearful, which is going to lead you to your downfall. Where there was a ditch earlier, used by the whole village as a rubbish heap, there he would lie down at night. After wandering everywhere during the day, thus passed many years, a more fortunate time had come for the ditch, and a huge vada of this compassionate Sai rose all around it. In the end, that same ditch became the sanctum sanctorum, a place of repose for Sai's body. There he found his permanent resting place, and the present Samadhi was built there. And it is the same Sai Samar, patron of the poor and humble, who has created this arc of his own life story for the benefit of the devotees, to enable them to get across this otherwise impassable ocean of worldly life. Absolutely. He did this with an earnest solicitude, thinking, how will this, my family of blind and lame devotees, cross over to the other bank of this river of worldly life? So very difficult to cross. It is necessary for all to get across the ocean of worldly life, but to do so, our hearts must be purified. Purification of the heart is the chief among all the means for crossing it, and its source lies in the devotion of God. Absolutely. See, very important. Purification of the heart, purification of my mind, and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Guru is the only way for you, for the devotion to spring within. See, devotion is not something which can be acquired. You can't get devotion from outside. Devotion has to spring up within. And how do you grow in devotion? The devotion comes with the grace of the divine Lord Almighty, the Guru's grace. The devotion will grow day by day when your heart gets purified. Absolute purification has to happen. Not even a taint must be there. Even a small drop of one drop of potassium cyanide in the bottle of Ganga is a poison. So similarly, one tarnish within in your heart will not let you evolve. So there is a problem. So the purification of the heart has to be 100%. Absolutely pure, and only then will the Lord reside within your heart. He will reveal himself to you. How else can he reveal? So attaining this is the highest way of realizing the divine and attaining devotion, and devotion will grow from that moment go. There is no devotion like listening to the stories of the Guru. It inspires love for him quite effortlessly. The mind becomes cleansed and purified, and from thence spirituality is born. See how beautiful it is. There is no devotion like listening to the stories of the Guru. That is why when the Gurus teach you, they'll tell you to read all this scriptures, like all even the story books like, of great saints. Example would be Shri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa ji. His life story is there. So the Shri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's gospel truth. So you have to read that. When you read, you will learn how devotion has to be, how do you be devoted to the Guru, how do you be devoted to the divine, what are the different kinds of leelas that was performed, all that is taken into, all that is taught in there. And when you read it, you will understand and you will realize, and then you will start slowly imbibing those qualities. And that is why the Gurus will tell you, go read about different sages and saints, and then you will get an idea. And that itself, here it is said, why do you need to read is what is being mentioned here. There is no devotion like listening to the stories of the Guru. That itself is a devotion. To now what we are doing, though it's a satsang, but we are, reading the stories of a great Guru here, one great saint, Sai Baba himself. So now what happens? Our devotion will grow towards him. So whoever is your Ishta, your devotion towards that divine, the divinity or the God Almighty will grow. So growing in devotion is very important. And for that, this is one of the ways, the method. Next, it inspires love for him. See, Guru is the doorway to God. Without Guru, you cannot achieve God. You cannot attain God. So what is a must? You have to have love and devotion. How do you attain that love and devotion? By listening to his leelas, by listening to his greatness, singing his prayers, constantly taking his name. That is the only way for you to inspire and get that, for the love and devotion to grow within your heart. So it inspires love for him quite effortlessly. The mind becomes cleansed and purified, and from then spirituality is born. What happens by doing this? Your mind is purified, your heart is purified, it's completely cleansed. And once it is cleansed, then the spirituality is born, not otherwise. Innumerable are the stories of Sai. Singing all of them will comprise a big volume. Having resolved to be brief, the expanse still becomes uncontrollable. For as the eagerness of the listeners grows, so does the fondness of the narrator to narrate. Let us then satisfy each other's fond wish for them and also attain our spiritual gain. Here Sai himself is the captain of his boat, and attentive listening is the fare for this ferry. He who listens to the stories with reverence, with faith, will reach without delay the shore beyond. See, listening is a very important thing. It's not about hearing. You have to listen very reverentially. And that is the fare you will, pay for the ferry. When he ferries you, you have to pay the dakshina. So what is the dakshina here? Attentive listening, reverentially listening to what is being said. Only then will you be able to contemplate. That is Shravan, Manan and Nididhyasan. So it's very important to go and contemplate, meditate, and in silence absorb and imbibe that knowledge that is whatever that knowledge has to come to you, it will percolate. But you need to do all of this. You have to reflect on what is being taught. And if you can't reflect, and if you do not listen intently, you cannot absorb. So it is very, very important for you to listen very attentively. In the last chapter, a brief description of the handi was given, as also the confirmation of faith of a Datta devotee and the feeding of Naivedya to the devotee's satiety. Everyone knows that the plan of the chapter so far has been that before ending the previous chapter, an indication was given of the subject of the next. But while ending the last chapter, I could not remember the story for the subsequent one and thought I would narrate only that subject, of which Sai reminds me absolutely. And in keeping with that, what I had so clearly stated, I am narrating here what, by Sai's grace, I am reminded of. Hence, I pray to the listeners that they push aside any impediments and give their full attention at their ease. It will only make them happy. Once, Chandorkar, a true devotee, was sitting in the mosque pressing Baba's feet. At the same time, murmuring verses from the Bhagavad Gita. As his hands pressed Baba's feet, he bit his tongue in murmuring the 4th chapter of Shri Bhagavad Gita. Just see the marvel of what happened then. Sai Samarth, who had all the knowledge of the past, present and future, felt that he should explain the meaning of Gita to Nyana. So he made an excuse of Nana's indistinct murmur of that chapter dealing with the yoga of divine knowledge, sometimes entitled as Yoga of Knowledge and True Renunciation of Action, to ask him a question. As the 33rd verse ended with all actions in their entirety, O Partha, culminate in wisdom, and Nyana went on with the verse, learn that by humble reverence, etc. At this verse 34, his recitation came to a halt. In his mind, Baba felt like asking a question and to impress his instruction on Nana's mind. Nana, he said, what are you murmuring? Do say clearly what you are softly muttering. Allow me to hear what you are murmuring so indistinctly. The moment he was thus commanded, Nyana obeyed at once and recited all the 4 lines of the stanza. Baba then asked him to explain clearly its significance. With great humility, with folded hands, Nyana very happily answered in sweet words and explained the significance of Bhagavan Shri Krishna's intent. Actually, this is how the great gurus teach. Their way of teaching is unique. Many a time, my Guruji suddenly will give me, when we are doing my satsang one-on-one, he'll say, now explain this verse. What does it mean? And I'm like, okay, let me try. It's not about trying. You have to just explain. Whatever that you understand, they want to know whether you really understand or not. And yesterday also my Guruji said, I want you to go listen to this satsang, and I don't know how many will understand. Let me see if you have understood or not. Listen and let me know what you have understood of it. So after I listened to the satsang twice, and then I went and explained to him. He said, very little, this much, a dot is all that you got it. Good. You have to go deeper. You need to progress. So that is how the Gurus teach. Their way of teaching is very unique. And then sometimes they talk in such a easy manner. See, the words just flow from their mouth. The teachings just, literally, those are the pearls of wisdom that just flows from their mouth so sweetly. But for us, what seems it's quite normal sometimes is the great secret. The profound truth is what they are revealing. But for you to understand and absorb that knowledge, like I mentioned before, you have to listen reverentially. That is when the knowledge of the truth will open. These are all very profound teachings. But if we do not pay attention and have that absolute ekagrata, that single pointed devotion and that absolute intent that I need to learn, I have to understand. If you don't have that and if you don't listen with devotion, then the truth will never reveal itself to you. And this is a very important thing. And I have experienced this personally with my Krishna Guruji. No matter what he will say, sometimes, he can say the same thing 100 times, but the knowledge is right under my nose. He'll say, right, it's right in front of your nose, yet you can't see it. Why? Because we cover it with, our mind clouds the knowledge. That is why you have to, surrender. You have to have faith, absolute faith, complete surrender, unconditional pure love, and exclusive devotion. And you have to listen absolutely in humility and humbleness, and being very submissive unto the Guru. And only then will he teach. And never let your mind say, oh, I know this, I know this. Never let it, don't allow it to even talk. Your job is only to listen. And once you listen, then only the knowledge will percolate. So coming back. So why I was mentioning this is because how the Gurus teach is very unique. Their way of instructing and imparting certain knowledge is very, very unique, and you cannot fathom it at all. And that is why I was emphasizing why Baba made Nana to read that and ask Nana to give the explanation of the verse he was reading. The moment he was thus commanded, Nana obeyed at once and recited all the 4 lines of the stanza. Baba then asked him to explain clearly its significance. With great humility, with folded hands, Nana very happily answered in sweet words and explained the significance of Sri Bhagavan Sri Krishna's intent. Now let us give the original verse word for word from the Gita, so that this dialogue between Baba and Nana becomes clear to all. So as to understand the real essence of this question and the way the minds of the saints work, I feel I should begin in such a way that the significance will be brought out without any doubts or difficulties. The Sanskrit language is as it is difficult to understand. How did it become so easy for Sai? They all wondered. And how did he put so apt a question? Truly, the knowledge that the saints have is inconceivable. When did he study Sanskrit, and when did he read the Gita so as to put such a question as befits a learned one who has mastered the very essence of the Gita? To satisfy the listeners and give them an idea of the original verse, I shall repeat to the letter the exact words of Sri Bhagavan, which will also be helpful for the discussion. Learn that by humble reverence, by inquiry, persistent search for the reality by piercing through illusion, and by service, the masters of the knowledge who have seen the truth will instruct thee in that wisdom. I'm going to repeat the verse that this is from Bhagavad Gita. Learn that by humble reverence, by inquiry, persistent search for the reality by piercing through illusion, and by service, the masters of knowledge, and by service, the masters of knowledge who have seen the truth will instruct thee in that wisdom. This is that original verse from Gita. Many have been the commentators on this, but they are all unanimous in their exposition of this verse. Nana too was very well versed and had made a deep, prolonged study of the commentaries on the Gita. He began to explain the significance of the verse word by word. Very courteously, with great humility and in sweet words, Nana was ready to give an exposition after carefully arranging the words from verse into prose. He said, "He who prostrates in obeisance at the Guru's feet is ready to give up his life in the Guru's service and puts a question to the Guru very respectfully. To him, the Jnanis give knowledge with exposition." In brief, what Sri Krishna, kindness incarnate, and said so lovingly to Arjuna was this, that Guru service and Guru worship alone are the means of attaining knowledge. And what it means also is, you have to be, when you bow down in humility and humbleness, you cannot go with an ego saying that I know. You have to go with absolute humility, being subservient unto the lotus feet of the Guru, the masters who have achieved that real knowledge, the knowers of the truth. And when you go with that humility and humbleness, and by serving the Guru, by being very, very humble and submissive unto his lotus feet, when you go with that and with absolutely surrendering your ego, arrogance and mind at the lotus feet of the Guru, and when you ask him in with that innocence in your heart, that time the masters of the truth, the masters of the knowledge, this guru will impart you that knowledge of wisdom, the truth. That is what is Lord Shri Krishna saying here. But let us understand what is Baba going to ask and what is Nana going to say. In brief, what Shri Krishna, kindness incarnate, said so lovingly to Arjuna was that the Guru service and Guru worship alone are the means of attaining knowledge. O Arjuna, if you go along this way, then the self-realized jnanis will show you the way to knowledge. Baba, this is the significance that I understand. Shankaracharya, Anandgiri, Shankaranand, Sridhar, Madhusudan and Nilakanta, they have all described this same way of Bhagavan Shri Krishna's giving instruction in their commentaries. Sai Samarth accepted the exposition of the first two lines, but as for that of the remaining half of the verse, that is remaining two lines, listen to what Sai said. The other devotees too sat there open mouthed to listen, gazing on Baba's face like the chakor bird gazing at the moon to savor the particles of nectar. Baba said, Nana, try to understand the complete third line once again and the elision mark before the word Nyana, and then see the significance. Do not think needlessly that I am saying something quite to the contrary, reducing sense to nonsense. How can earlier commentaries be all untrue? You say that the masters of knowledge who have seen the truth will instruct thee in that wisdom. But when you take the word Ajnana in the place of Nyana, you will get the true significance. Nyana is not something that one can talk about. Then how can it be the subject of instruction? So take the opposite of Nyana and then experience it. I have heard your meaning of Nyana, but what do you lose by taking the word Ajnana in its place? Ajnana can become the subject of the speech, but Nyana itself is beyond words. The placenta encircles the fetus, dirt covers a mirror and ash the fire. Similarly, Ajnana covers Jnana. Bhagavan Shri Krishna has himself said in the Gita that Jnana is covered by Ajnana. What does it mean? Knowledge, that is, knowledge is covered by ignorance. So here Baba is trying to explain to how Jnana by itself cannot be understood. How can somebody instruct Jnana? Jnana is that supreme knowledge. You have to, you have to experience that. Nobody can point out to you what is that self-realization means. Like my Krishna Guruji will say, I can only instruct you to follow a path, to go on a path, and he will instruct you to do your sadhana and whatever that you have to, whatever is required by you. But how can you teach what self-realization means? You can only give an inference to it. You can say it is like this. Example, an apple tastes sweet and sour. It is red in color. You can give a description like that, but by itself, till you don't eat that apple, how do you know what apple looks like and what apple tastes? So knowledge of truth is like this. You have to experience it. You have to unravel it yourself. That is why we say it is self-realization. The realization has to happen within your own self. It is you yourself have to realize it. Nobody can give you that understanding or the experience of that knowledge. That is exactly what Baba is trying to explain to Nana. Hence, once this ajnana or ignorance is removed, Jnana shines forth in virtue of its own nature. Absolutely true. See, why do we say you need the knowledge? Knowledge is required to cut asunder the ignorance which covers the knowledge. But knowledge of what? Knowledge, not that truth that will shine forth, but the knowledge to remove the ignorance. That is, there is certain guidelines, like when you learn this, what does this verse mean? So how you have to go and contemplate. So you're using that knowledge imparted by your guru to understand, to contemplate, then to go deeper, and then you're going to have questions. And using that sword of knowledge, you're cutting asunder the ignorance which is covering the real knowledge. So knowledge, whatever, that's what Baba is saying, that jnana cannot be experienced. The Guru, what Guru is imparting is only an pointer to it. So the knowledge will shine forth when the ajnana or ignorance is removed. So jnana shines forth in virtue of its own nature. See, that is so beautiful. That what it means is the self reveals itself to you. You cannot go and find it. It's not something that you can find, because when you have evolved that journey and when you arrive there, the self, when it's pleased with you, it will reveal itself to you. So nobody can point saying this is how the self looks. It has a color, a form, a shape, a structure. Nobody can describe that self. See, all these great masters also are only going to point out. Even they cannot explain to you what it means till it doesn't reveal to yourself. See, that's what it says, right? The jnana shines forth in virtue of its own nature till it doesn't reveal to you and you don't experience it within yourself. How are you going to understand what does this truth mean? And that is why it is said self-realization or God realization. Even God, how does the God look like? See, we are always going by a description, what is mentioned in our scriptures. Have you ever questioned how does God look like? So, everybody has described Lord Shri Krishna to be in blue in color, in a hue of, the beautiful sky. He's a sky clad, that not he, but he's like Lord Dattatreya, right? They give this phrase saying sky clad. What does it mean? How does they look like? We only can imagine, but have you really seen? Till you do not see God, and how can you believe in it? So we are just going by assumptions. Assumption means somebody has already seen it or somebody has described this is how God looks. So we take it for it. We take that this is because scriptures are the only one we believe in. So whatever is said in the scripture is the truth. So we believe in that truth and we agree to that. But till you do not experience the truth yourself, you cannot actually confirm. You cannot confirm that faith within yourself. So Lord Shri Krishna wears a pitambari colored dhoti or the yellow colored dhoti, and he has got a crocodile earrings. He has a kaustubh in his he has a kaustubh in his the jewel, the car, and then he's got a beautiful, his feet is described as a lotus feet, and then he's got those beautiful marks when below his feet. So all that is being very nicely described, but what does that mean? Have you ever seen any of this? So till you don't experience, you don't understand. So God also, we only have an imagination that this is how the God looks. So that is why we said God realization or self-realization. Till you do not experience that God in its entirety or in its form, then you can't understand that. Likewise, the self also, the truth cannot be understood. So coming back, so Nyana is self-enlightened, but is like moss covered pure water. Only the wise man who removes the moss will get the pure water. Absolutely. Have you seen the moss covering the water? So you have to clear it, right? It's all covered. You can't see the water beneath. So till you don't remove the moss and then go down, you can't get that pure water. Similarly, this is what it says. The jnana is self-enlightened. That jnana is self-enlightened. So that is something it has to reveal itself. So that is why the another term they use is enlightenment. Enlightenment is when you understand that knowledge, the knowledge of the truth. When you have that knowledge, that is where we say you have been enlightened. So self-enlightened. So jnana is self-enlightened. It is like the eclipse of the sun and the moon. They are always illumined, but it is the planets Rahu and Ketu who come in their way and hinder out sight. But the sun and the moon suffer no harm. The hindrance is to our sight of them. Similarly, jnana is self-illumined and safe in its own place. What the eye perceives, its power to see, is jnana. The film that grows over it is the ajnana, and it is necessary to remove it. So simple as this. See, this is again, I cannot describe the words or explain it. What it simply means, again, I'm saying, there is knowledge which is covered. That truth is covered. So you use that knowledge. Again, this is not the knowledge, okay? What is covered is that truth. by ignorance. So the gurus impart the knowledge about the truth. So they're pointing you out. This is how it looks. Exactly what here is being explained. So here it was explained as to the water, right? The moss is covering the water. The pure water is that self, which is the real knowledge, the true knowledge. That is the self. And the moss is the ignorance. So it's an inference for you to understand what it means. But how can anyone adequately describe? That is exactly what Baba said in it. Once again, here it's mentioned, right? Let me read that out for you. Nyana shines forth in its virtue of its own nature. So how do you say Nyana can be explained? That is what Baba is saying. So you cannot. So till you don't uncover that veils of ignorance that has covered your heart, the knowledge will not, the truth will not shine, that the self will not shine forth. So once you overcome that, then only it will reveal itself. So here they're giving different examples for you to understand. We finished this. The whole visible universe is an indescribable spectacle of Maya. This is the unmanifest Maya or avidya, which is without a beginning. This is the play of ajnana. See, this whole universe is a play of Maya. What is it? It's called avidya, and which is without a beginning. This is the play of ajnana. Ajnana means ignorance, because what you see or everything that is created is also unreal. But in this it is said, this whole visible universe is an indescribable spectacle of Maya. This is the unmanifest Maya or avidya, which is without a beginning. So they're talking about before the creation happens. And this is the play of ajnana, the ignorance. You cannot go to the beginning. Where did it all begin? You can try to find out. You can't figure out the beginning, neither there's no end either. But this again, Lord Shri Krishna in Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita, they've described how did this creation happen. And even in very beautiful text called the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. How did this creation come about? But it's not so easy to understand that knowledge with your mind. So everything is beginningless. There is no, you can't find out where did God come from, or where is the source, the beginning, or where is the end. You cannot ever, because He's eternal. He's always there. He's never born. He never dies. There is no beginning. There's no end. He's eternal. So you can never measure the breadth and depth about this limitless ocean. Who's that Athanga Sagar? And obeisance, Nyana is a matter of realization. It is not a subject for instruction. Exactly what I was saying so far. Nyana is a matter of realization. You have to realize it. You can't instruct. There is no instructions that anybody can give you. Even like my Krishna Guruji will say, I can only point out to you, but you have to walk that path. You have to drink the water and then experience it. So till you don't experience that, how will you know what is that self mean? So the experience is something you need to get. But who is the guru? The wise man is the one. The guru is the one who is the knower of this truth. He's already that Parabrahma. He's experienced the self. So he can only instruct you. Instruct means he can point you towards that. But again, he cannot instruct you and how do you, what is that self all about? He cannot again explain to you, in the sense he cannot give you that understanding, but he can tell you this is how it is with an example. And then you have to experience it yourself. That is why the guru is the doorway to God. I'll tell you why. Again, this is a very sweet thing. See, it's very simple. Though this looks very complicated, I'll make it to you very simple. You know what? This knowledge, the Parabrahma, the Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. And who's the Parabrahma? Parabrahma is this truth himself. So when you have the Guru and when you have the devotion to him, isn't the Parabrahma in the palm of your hand? This is exactly what my Krishna Guruji says. But even to understand the simple truth is very, very difficult. You know why? Because we get our ego and mind and arrogance come in so strong that we do not recognize that the Parabrahma is right in the palm of our hands. But we find it somewhere else. We are trying to search for something. It will reveal itself when you have purified your heart. See, the criteria is very simple. We are going about round and round and round and coming back to the same point. What is it? Absolute faith, complete surrender, unconditional pure love, exclusive devotion. But before this, how do you get all of this? Purification of your heart, purification of your mind, and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Guru. And what is it most required? Give up your ego, arrogance, hatred, anger, all the evil propensities. And then absolute humility, goodness of heart, kindness, compassion, love, being humble, being that divine being, one who's on the path of sattva. When you have all of this, when your guru is pleased, that self will reveal itself to you. So why are we going all over the place and trying to get so complex, we're having this complex discussion about it? You don't need it. It is very simple. But this simple knowledge is not entering our brain. Why? Because we think I am the body, I am the mind, I am the senses, I have a family, I have a job. Oh, today I have a problem. My mother is sick, my father is sick, my job is, I'm going to lose my job. Oh God, I have to, how much of pressure. And I have to run after all the material worldly wants, desires, lust, greed. Do you see? I think Devi Mahatmyam has already come here. Who all has come? Mahishas, the Mahishasur has come, Chanda Munda has come, then Shumba Nishumba, Rakta Bij, Dhumralochana, everybody has come. Do you see? All these are nothing but the demons, the evil propensities. So every scripture is only talking to you about how do you attain this divinity. How do you evolve on the path of sattva? The only way to do is just surrender unto the lotus feet of your guru, purify your heart, bring goodness within yourself. The only word today you need to stand is goodness. The goodness is a very beautiful one. Again, please go read Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, verse 1, 2, and 3. And in that, Lord Shri Krishna has very beautifully described what are the qualities of goodness. How do you attain those goodness? And when you live, the self is right there. You don't even have to make so much effort. It will reveal itself to you. But are you capable of attaining that? That is the question you need to answer yourself, not anybody. And can you follow the instructions of your guru? And when you can do that, it's all very easy. Why are we putting so much effort? So, you don't have to do this gymnastics or, the mind's gymnastics. You don't need to. Oh, what is Nyana? It's such a complex thing. I don't understand. It is very simple. You don't have to do anything. Just that love and devotion. Everything will come to you automatically without you asking for it. The only thing you need to strive, like I said, one of the things even Baba mentioned, shut your mind, shut your mouth. That is the most important. Silence is another very important lesson. You have to practice. These are the basic sadhana. And when you do that, let me tell you, things will open up. You don't need to attain any more thing. Yes, you have to strive. One of the things which Lord Shri Krishna says is that, yeah, you can be my devotee, yet you have to strive for self-realization. That is a task of this body. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice, because we have taken this human birth. So you have to strive. So just go strive, don't worry. But have all of these qualities and that striving will become very easy. Then self itself will reveal to you. Where are you going running and finding somewhere? Right? In the palm of your hand. So who is talking to Nana? The Parabrahman himself is talking. One who's the self himself. So why should it be such a difficult one? This is what we don't understand. So coming back. Nyana is a matter of realization. It is not a subject for instruction. And obeisance to the Guru, repeated questions to him and his sincere service. These are the means of winning his grace. Reality of this creation is the greatest illusion. This is the darkness that covers Nyana, which has first to be dispelled. Only then will Brahman, which is absolute knowledge, will manifest itself. See, simple truth. What does it say? I'm going to reread this. This is very important. Listen very attentively. Nyana is a matter of realization. It is not a subject for instruction. And obeisance to the Guru, repeated questions to him, and his sincere service. These are the means of winning his grace. See, most important. What did I say? Moksha Moolam Gurur Krupam. Who's the one who's got the power to grant you that realization, the grace of the Guru? Why? Because he is the Parabrahman. So what are we going after and searching somewhere and doing the most complex texts? You don't need to do anything. When you live these virtues, the qualities that I just described, and do very sincerely serve him, follow his word to the T, I'm telling you, you are just short of attaining it like that. It's so easy. You can attain it like that. It's not at all difficult. But are you capable? That's the most important thing, to follow these basic things. My Guruji, my Krishna Guruji will say 12 years and still, your ego will come up. See, yeah, that is a problem. That's what we are born with, this mind. One of the things that when you think that you don't have an ego is when you're that ugly, the ego will, raise its ugly head when you least expect it. And that is the danger. So you cannot even be relaxed. What does that mean? That when I said all these demons right now, they don't die. Like I have already explained to you in Devi Mahatmya, they have that their guru, who's Shukracharya, will revive them back again. So which means they will only be, in a benign form. They're not active within you. So, and suddenly from nowhere they will come forth, and that time the wrath will be even stronger. So this is what happens on the path of spirituality, and they don't want you to attain to become divine. So they will put all sorts of obstacles. And and another thing, in our own world we see other people as competition to our growth. So this likes and dislikes is the one of the most important thing to overcome, the equanimity of mind. And you can't attain it because you're already seeing an object as an obstacle. You're seeing that as a demon. But one other very important lesson here is that you should be able to see God in everything. Everything, this entire universe is the divine Lord. Because in earlier Baba says, right, when he says it very nicely. One second, let me read this. For to him God pervaded everything and everywhere. So he was able to see God in everything. Can you see? We are only saying, oh, that's a bad person, that person said this to me. The moment you look at that object itself, you get aversion, or you get hatred, or you love. So you're always in this yo-yo. And then where is that equanimity of mind? Then how can you attain that? That there itself you are failing. Lord Shri Krishna has said very beautifully in Uddhav Gita. He says this verse: the highest devotion to me, my mind will be pleased when you can see God in everything and everyone. This is the highest form of worship to me, and that is when my mind will be pleased. He's the universal mind. Krishna, by the way, Lord Shri Krishna doesn't have a mind, so don't misconstrue that word that I'm using. So that is what the Lord himself is saying. But are we capable of attaining? So these are very simple, but yet very tough to achieve. So what is it important here? Sadhana is very important. Practice, 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 practice. And service to your Guru. Surrender to him and obey whatever he ordains you to do. And that is the only way, for you to realize this self. Moksha moolam gurur krupam. No other way. So, coming back, and obeisance to the Guru, repeated questions to him, and a sincere service. These are the means of winning his grace. Reality of this creation is the greatest illusion. This is the darkness that covers Nyana, which has to first to be dispelled. Only then will Brahman, which is absolute knowledge, manifest itself. Ajnana is the root of all sorrows of worldly life, that which is ignorance. Ignorance is the root of all sorrows of worldly life. But when the collyrium of the Guru's grace is put into the eyes, the veil of Maya over it will vanish, and what will remain will be Nyana, which is natural. So when the veil of Maya goes away, and how does it go away? I'll reread this verse. Please listen very attentively. Sorry. Ajnana is the root of all sorrows of the worldly life, which is ignorance. Okay. But when the collyrium, what is collyrium? This black kajal, we call it, of the Guru's grace is put into the eyes, the veil of Maya is over it comes off, and then will vanish, and what will remain will be Nyana, which is natural. So what does go away? The moss on the water goes off, and what you can see is the pure water. So it automatically reveals, right? How? By the grace of your Guru. Moksha moolam gurur krupam. So Nyana is not a thing to be attained. It is already self-enlightened. And this is well known to the Veda Shastras. The obstacle in its way is Ajnana, which is ignorance. So that is why we say Guru means one who is the remover of the darkness, or the one who illumines you with knowledge. So the Guru is the one who removes your ignorance and enlightens you with that knowledge of the truth. With this, we are end of the hour. We'll stop here. Tomorrow, I have a meeting in the evening, so I will be doing the satsang in the morning from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. So see you all tomorrow morning. Thank you for joining Sai Satcharita today. I hope you enjoyed the lessons. I will have a very good evening. Om Shri Mahaganapate Namaha. Om Shri Gurudev Datta. Om Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Digambara Digambara Shripad Vallabha Digambara. Om Shri Krishna Guru Nathanatha Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Devi Durgaya Namaha. Om Shri Krishna Arpanam Namastu. Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum.